Good morning. How are you this morning? I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, where we understand how overwhelming the home buying process is, and our job is to make that a simple process to make sure you understand everything that's going on every step of the way, and most importantly, to make sure that you and your home are protected when you walk away from that closing table. So we've been talking a lot about protecting your home ownership, and what does that mean? I mean, when you go to buy a new home, you spend a lot of time picking out the right realtor that knows exactly what your needs are, that you can work with, and that realtor helps you find that perfect, absolutely incredible home that you're so excited about, that you've worked and saved so hard for. You work really hard to find the right mortgage company, the right mortgage professional that you are willing to share your finances with. Good morning, Miss Stacy. How are you today? Hope you're having a great day. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So you work really hard to find the right mortgage person to share your finances with. That's a really big deal. I mean, we go through a lot of personal things, and we don't easily, especially in today's world, share our finances very easily. So you need to share your finances with that mortgage person, and you need to trust the person that you're going to share that with. But then you actually need to choose who you're going to do your closing with, because when you get done with all of those other things and you sign all of that paperwork and you go enjoy that wonderful home you've worked really hard for, you want to make sure that you're protected, that no one can make any claim against that ownership. We think about a lot of things happening with our home, so we insure it through homeowners insurance properly. We have it inspected. We do all of these things to make sure that the process is proper up to buying that property. But what do you do once the closing has happened? How are you sure that you're protected and that no one can ever come back and give you a problem with the ownership of that property? So we're going to talk about that for a few minutes today, because I think when I talk about this, people say, oh, well, those are things that only happen in stories that I read or those types of things. And I wanted to talk to you about some of the ways that things can happen. Good morning, my friend Joy. How are you today? Hope you're having an awesome day. So I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group. Just a little bit about us so you understand. We've been doing home closings for 30 years, a little over 30 years at this point, and we've seen all kinds of crazy things. Good stuff, bad stuff, all kinds of stuff. Hey there, Miss Kimberly. How are you this morning? So I love to share that information with you. I do a lot of reading, not only motivational things, but business things, personal things. And one of the things I was listening to, I don't love to read. What I like to do is listen to it on audio when I'm in the vehicle. So one of the things that I was listening to was about sharing your passion. And if you're not talking about people about things that make you passionate about what you do, then you're totally in the wrong place. So I hope that the passion that I have actually comes through on the things that we're talking about, because I am very, very passionate about making sure that your home buying process is simple, that you understand what's going on, and that you're protected. We've done this for a long time, and one of the things I learned is there's a lot of things out there that can affect the ownership of your property that you don't ever need to understand. Think about the mechanic that actually works on your car, and he says to you, well, you're having a problem with your brakes, and you say, well, that's great, just fix them. We don't need to know all of the things that go into making those brakes work out. What we do need to know is that they're fixed properly, and that you and your family, me and my family, are safe in that vehicle. So that's what I would like to do. Is I love what we do, but I also am very passionate about making sure that you understand what's going on as much as you want to. So what I wanted to talk about today was protecting your ownership and what can affect that ownership. What are those things that actually can come up afterwards? So first, let me say, if you're tuning in and you haven't checked in, please do. I love to know who's on, and it helps me understand what kind of information and what kind of messages to share. Also, if you have questions about something we're talking about, or maybe not even something we're not talking about, put it in the message here. You can share this information right from this live broadcast, and I would really appreciate if you do that. You just have to hit the share button. That helps me a lot, but it also helps everybody a lot. If we're talking about something that's good information for you, then more than likely there's somebody else that'll want to know that information that I don't know, and that I could really use the help sharing that. So good morning. How are you this morning? So what I wanted to talk about a little bit today is what kind of things do affect your homeownership. And it's not my goal to scare you, it's my goal to inform you. So let's talk about 3 things that I can tell you right off the top of the bat are really interesting and things that happen on a regular basis. Good morning, Miss Melanie. I know you're getting ready to go out of town and hopefully go where the sunshine is nice. So nice and warm. So you guys have a great time there at the beach. I hope you enjoy that. So are my videos archived somewhere? You provide a lot of great info. Yes, as a matter of fact, they are. Thanks for the question, Kimberly. We actually have a YouTube channel, and there's a link to it on our website. So I do a couple of things. I do put them on YouTube. We usually try to put them on YouTube the same day or the next day. The other thing is that we actually transcribe them and create blog posts on our website. So there's transcriptions on our website. There's also blog posts. There's also social media posts all through social media that are also on our website, and that's all under our homepage on the blog page. So if you're looking for some of that information, you can look for it there. And then to dig a little bit deeper or get some more information, you can go to our resources page, and our website is www.foottetitlegroup.com. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Good morning, Cousin Adrian. How are you this morning, girl? How is the weather in Texas? Hopefully you guys are having a great day. All right, so let's talk a little bit about homeownership. So we all have gone through the process, or if you haven't, then this is something that will really help you to understand the protection. So what we do is when we find out that we're going to be handling a home closing for someone, we actually search the title to the property. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that all the people in that ownership chain that should have signed transferring their interest somewhere when they transferred to someone else, that they actually signed. Or if they didn't, why didn't they? And were the steps that were taken to make sure that their interest was covered was actually taken care of properly. So we do that title search, and we do that research, and we review that information, and then we take care of any of those concerns that come up, make sure that those things are taken care of properly. Now, some things happen after closing that we have absolutely no control over. There's no way for us to have found those. And that's sort of what I wanted to talk about today, because any good title company will take care of those steps for you, and it's how they handle things after the closing for you that is also very important. So one of the things that could happen with your home ownership is if someone searched the title, but they didn't properly address some of the ownership things that come up. Good morning. Good morning, Wendy. How are you today? I'm really excited for you that your son is home, and thank you so much for his service and your family service. That means a lot to me. So, all right, so ownership. Ownership is a tricky thing. It may sound simple. So, we do a title search and we look at the ownership records to determine who actually owned that property. And we do a 60-year search. So we're not just looking at the person that the seller currently bought that property from. We're looking back 60 years to make sure all of those ownership interests were properly taken care of. And, here's one of those things that can happen. When you're talking about that kind of stuff, here's a very common thing. So one of the owners passes away. How did they own the property? We've talked about this a couple of times, and so it bears reviewing just a teeny bit. So if you have a husband and wife that owned a piece of property together, we have to look at that ownership and make sure, how did they own the property? Did they own it as tenants by the entirety, which means that the surviving person gets the property completely? If they didn't, which sometimes they don't, maybe they purchased the property before they were married and never changed the ownership. Never changed the names on the title, never changed the way that they own the property. And then let's say the husband passed away. So the husband passes away and they never changed the ownership, and they owned it as tenants in common, which means each person owns a divided 1/2 interest. Well, that husband's ownership is now owned by anyone that has an interest in his estate. Now, the wife would be part of that, but also so would his children. Maybe he has children from another relationship. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe they're all their own children. But all of those people, if they have 1 child or 10 children, they all need to sign off on his ownership. And if they didn't, then we have an ownership problem. So there's a question, or there's a concern that could happen, and a title company reviewing the title more than likely would be able to review that and make sure that that's addressed. But maybe they couldn't. Let's talk about something else. It could be an ownership interest issue that a title company can't figure out, and that is forgery. Forgery happens all the time. And now today with cybercrime abilities and being able to reproduce things, there is such an ability to affect your ownership. And so let's talk about forgery. So let's say you have two owners that owned a piece of property, husband and wife, and they were estranged, but the person doing the closing didn't know that. Maybe the realtor didn't know that. Maybe the buyers didn't know that. Maybe the buyer's agent didn't know that. So you have two people that came to closing that were purported themselves to be a husband and wife. But the husband is overseas and the wife is selling the house without him. Now, probably 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, in the real estate industry, we were not good about taking IDs because it wasn't a problem. So there potentially is a problem here if there was a forgery. If two people came to closing and one of them was not the spouse, but it was somebody who purported to be the spouse and forged a signature, we get an ownership problem. Let's see, I got another question. As a home buyer, should we ask the title company for documentation to verify they have done the research? Well, they can give you that. And what we do is and most title companies do, is we actually do the title search and then we provide what's called a title commitment to your lender. And that tells the lender what we agree to insure on the property. But your insurance policy will protect you if you purchase the title insurance policy, it will protect you for any of these things that came up. The problem that I find, and good question, cousin, thank you so much for asking. Good morning, Bridget. Good morning, Miss Pam. Good morning, Allison, and those two beautiful baby boys. How are you today? Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. So the problem that I find, you have a title insurance that will cover you for things that happened earlier in the process, that happened before you owned the property. And as long as you purchase title insurance, owner's title insurance, then you should be protected. There's some things that you won't be protected on. But one reason I talk about this is because people don't understand when someone that they trust suggests, well, you don't have quite enough money at closing and there's a $500 title insurance policy or a $700 title insurance policy, you don't have to get that. That's an optional coverage. Well, the lender is requiring that they get title insurance. The owner's coverage is optional. And there's a reason why the lender requires you purchase title insurance for them. They want to make sure that anything that could affect that ownership, that they don't have a problem with their loan. So keep in mind that, just like anything else you would be thinking about, if something doesn't sound right, smell right, it doesn't make exactly the right sense, you should be asking some questions. Now, the title insurance will cover you, but the other thing I want to tell you about that is you want to make sure you're working with a title company. What I recommend that you do is a company that has a long track record, that you ask them about their claims history, you ask them what their processes are, you check with other people and find out that the process was smooth. Do some research on them because the title company is the one that is writing that insurance, and you want to make sure, just like you would with your homeowner's insurance, that that company is a stand-up company, does things the right way, and when they write that insurance, that will in fact protect you. Because not every time does that happen. Plus, the other thing is, if you have insurance, you don't want to have to use it. Insurance is something that gives you peace of mind, that does take care of a problem if you have it, but you don't want to have to use your homeowner's insurance ever. But you want to have it because you don't want to buy, let's say, for example, you are going to buy a house and the home inspector says to you, well, the circuit breaker panel, they're older, they could cause a problem, but don't worry about it. You're going to have homeowner's insurance. It'll cover you if the house catches on fire. Well, who the hell wants to make a claim on their homeowner's insurance because their house caught on fire? I absolutely don't, and I'm pretty sure most of you don't as well. And so the same thing goes for this. You want to make sure that the company you're working with has a great track record of taking care of these things. I mean, that is their job, and that is what they're supposed to do. But you want to make sure that you are protected, both making sure you are purchasing an owner's title insurance policy, because that is what will protect you, but also making sure that the company that's writing it is somebody that has a track record of doing a great job. So let's talk about a couple other things. Great question. Thanks so much for asking, and hopefully that helped you out. So let's talk about a couple of other things that are just simple. I don't want to keep you guys too long this morning because I realize I'm a little late this morning, and I apologize for that. Coffee with Connie, usually I try to do between 8 and 8:30. This morning I got a little hung up with taking care of an actual issue that I needed to handle for someone's closing because we wanted to make sure everything was taken care of for that today. So thanks for being patient and tuning in a little bit later with me. So let's talk about another possibility. Ownership is one of the big ones. But let's talk about another possibility. So let's say the property that you're buying has a roadway that allows you to get to that property. Your property is not right on the main road. Let's say that you have a gravel driveway that goes back to your property, and you know the property you're purchasing does not have direct access to that main road through any other way except this little gravel road. So if you are using a gravel road to get to the property that you're going to buy, make sure you understand what's going on with that. The house that we used to own was what they call a flag lot, and the flag lot means exactly that. Think of a flag sitting on a flag pole. The pole was the actual driveway, which we owned that piece of property where the pole was. In your mind, think about that. The pole sitting from the main road going back to where our lot was behind a couple other houses. So the pole part of that, or the gravel driveway part, was actually our driveway, and then was our ownership. We did own that driveway, and then we actually had a piece of property that sat behind a bunch of other houses. So we actually owned that. The problem is sometimes, and you know, we can go down a whole nother rabbit hole and talk about surveys, and a lot of people anymore don't get surveys because they're trying to save money. But here's a perfect example why that would be a problem. So if you buy this property that has this flag lot, and has this long driveway that gets back to the property, how do you know that that driveway is actually sitting on that piece of property you own, that long skinny piece? Well, you don't unless you have a survey done. And so I really recommend having surveys done, because one thing that title insurance won't cover you for, if you didn't have a survey, they're not going to cover you because someone comes back and says, wow, well, gosh, your driveway sort of zigzags in and out of your long skinny piece that gets back to the big part of your lot. But what if your neighbor next door says, I don't like you driving on my property and I'm going to cut off one of those zigzags? Well, now you can't get back to your house. So if you haven't done your proper steps to make sure that you're protected, which one of those is to get a survey, then you don't know that even though you think that pole is sitting there and that driveway travels along that skinny piece, it may not be right on that skinny piece. So what would have to happen in that case is the next door neighbor would have to give you what we call a right of way to be able to drive through their part. And so that's part of what we do with doing the title searches. If the survey is done, then I can compare it to the title and make sure that you have forever access to that piece. So some of those kind of things are things that could affect ownership. Another really simple one. Good morning, Wendy. How are you this morning? Good morning, Karen Renner. Hey there, Miss Karen Hogue. How are you? Thank you guys all for tuning in. I so appreciate it. So let's talk about one other thing real quick, and then I'll let you get back to your crazy day. I'm sure you're really busy, but I really appreciate your time this morning. So let's talk about one other thing. So if the person you're buying the property from has a mortgage on the property, which more than likely in most cases people do, most people don't have the money that they would need to purchase a property completely with cash. So they may have a mortgage, which we address and take care of through the closing. But maybe they have a lien or a judgment. Maybe they didn't pay their homeowners association dues, and so there's a lien on that property that needs to be taken care of. Well, that shows up, or should show up, in the title search that's done. If for some reason it does not, it wasn't recorded properly, it was filed incorrectly in the land record, so when we did the title search we couldn't find it, title insurance will cover you, because what will happen is the mortgage company that wasn't taken care of, or that homeowners association company that has outstanding lien on that property, let's say that they're owed $5,000. So when they send you a certified letter and say, wow, you purchased this property, but this wasn't taken care of and this is owed and you need to pay it, who's going to pay it? Well, now you got to find the seller who wasn't paying their bills. They're probably not anywhere to be found at this point. They got away with $5,000 off of not paying, and now you've got a lien on your property that wasn't properly taken care of. Title insurance would cover you if it was not discovered in the title search, and title insurance will cover you for that type of thing. But these are the kind of things that can affect your ownership, because Now you got to go through all that stress of taking the steps of figuring out what's the legal process that I need to handle to get this lien released on the piece of property. So it's just some of the ideas, some of the things that happen that we deal with beforehand as you're going through the process, but some things that can affect your ownership. You know, the last thing we all want is somebody, and I say this all the time, but it's absolutely the truth, have somebody show up at your doorstep and say, or send you a certified letter, or have a letter delivered to you by the sheriff because they're doing process, they're serving you with some information and some notice. Who the heck wants to deal with that? And you're buying your brand new house and you're decorating it and painting it the great colors you want, and maybe changing the floor and buying new furniture, and oh my gosh, you've got all these things going on. Who the heck wants to deal with any of that? So some of the things that can affect your home ownership, and some of the reasons that I really want to impress upon you how very important it is to make the choice of who actually handles your home closing, because that person or that company is ensuring that home ownership. So the last little piece I want to leave you with today is when we're talking about choosing that company that does your home closing, this also goes for dealing with if you're going to be refinancing your property. It's not just purchasing, it's also refinancing. Yes, you've owned the piece of property for quite a period of time and there shouldn't be any concerns with the ownership. But let's say that you purchased it and you're getting ready to refinance it maybe 6 months later because the rates did some. Sorry about that. Gosh, I'm sorry I didn't turn off that notification and I just got buzzed in. So hopefully that wasn't one of you calling to ask a question. And if so, please leave a message. So really sorry about that. So let's say the rates did a big tumble 6 months after you bought the house. You want to be able to refinance that home. Well, if you dealt with a company that didn't maybe do the process properly, there may be a judgment, a lien, a right-of-way that you didn't know about that shows up when the new company does the title search, and now you've got something to deal with that can cause you a lot of stress. That refinance is not going to be a simple process. Or if you do a refinance and you don't deal with a reputable company at that point, and then you go to sell your home maybe 3 years later, and that company maybe was somebody that the lender referred to you because they do it all in-house and are trying to do it cheap for you, that company is no longer in business and they didn't release that mortgage that you paid off. So now when you go to sell the house, now you've got all of that to deal with as well. So part of the reason I want to talk about this is, one, so you understand there really are things that are very serious, happen all the time, that can affect your ownership. And those are things that you need to know to make sure that when you choose who does that closing for you, you make sure you're choosing a company that has a great reputation, that can take care of that for you. I know that when you're going through these processes, it's a lot to deal with, and you think, wow, just let somebody refer, let them take care of the title company. Well, I want you to understand how very important it is to make sure you're dealing with a title company that can take care of you. Just like you want to make sure your house is the perfect house for you, the mortgage is perfect, you need to make sure that your ownership is protected, because it's a big deal and can be something you have to deal with later. So hopefully this gave you 5 minutes, 15 minutes, I guess, of good information. I really appreciate all of you tuning in so much. It is very important to me. I hope you realize that it is a passion of mine to make sure that you understand the home buying process and that you get lots of good information so you can make good choices. If you would, I would really appreciate it if you would share this information, because there's people out there that I can't reach that you know, and that's really important to me. I really want to share messages all across the board. We can do home closings in Maryland and Virginia, anywhere in the states. I have 4 different closers that can go anywhere for you. We very rarely do them in our office. We more often do them at places that are convenient for you, and that's absolutely something that we'd love to handle for you. You're welcome, Pam. Thanks for saying so. One thing I wanted to leave you guys with is we are doing a webinar. I'm so super excited about this. We want to do an interactive webinar where we can get people in talking, asking questions with myself, with each other, to get you this good information. So, and I realize that in the morning sometimes is a difficult time, and so we're going to be doing it in the evening. Really super excited to bring this information to you. We are going to have the registration online starting on Monday, and we're ready for you guys to sign up. We only have 100 spots. Share it with everybody you know. The 5 most important things you need to know about your home closing. We are going to share those November 15th at 7 p.m. I'm sorry, I had to look down and just make sure I had the right information for you guys. I'm going to be posting on social media. We're going to be emailing you information. You can send me your, message me with your email, and we'll put you on the email list so you can make sure you get the information so you can register. Like I said, only 100 spots. We really need you guys to register as soon as you can. It's going to go live on Monday. So share the video, please. If you felt like it was valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share. And let me know if you're interested in the webinar, and we'll get you registered. Like I said, the registration will be online on Monday, and it'll go through all of October because it's going to be on November 15th at 7 p.m. at night. Hopefully that helps you get your family settled, dinner taken care of, and then you can tune in. So I really appreciate everybody's time this morning. Thanks so very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, and we protect your home ownership. Thanks for tuning in with Coffee with Connie, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.